All right. Well, love and wellness. Love plus art equals wellness. Welcome to Happy Heart Hour. You're listening to Lonnie Beats in the background. And we are on season 3, episode 3 of Happy Heart Hour. And we're still talking about Mental Health Awareness Month, and I'm still talking about Halloween and how that relates, and how I think that when they talk about that the souls will be roaming the earth. I listened to something on the full moon. I have for the past 6-7 years done a full moon event, and that is it was a very, very great learning lesson. We had an excellent lesson that came to my understanding, and it shifted my paradigm a little bit more. I already think that energy is what you do with it. It's not good or bad. It's the same way a witch is not good or bad. It's just what she do with that energy that she learns. She is also oh, I think the music's still on in the background. You have choices. You have multiple ways that you're able to make choices and decide. What you're going to do with the energy is up to you, but the energy itself is not good or bad. So I think the same way about ghosts. The reason why people call them ghosts is because they're scared of them. The reason why we call them ancestors is because you're not scared of those. So there's a lot of cultural background differences. Folks that have different cultural upbringings, they think of the spirit land, the spiritual things differently. Certain church rituals, like drinking of the blood, the passing of his body. These things went on later to be considered symbols of things, or we use things to symbolize the things that were spoken of. But those things to me have some of the forbidden aspects that they like to give us. They like to tell us, astrology is something that you weren't supposed to be into, and I don't know where that came from, but I remember hearing that while I was in church. That don't read your astrology, your horoscope. Like what? Like like the 12 disciples, like the 12 months, like well, the way I've learned things, I relate a lot of the stories, the symbols of things. I have a book called Signs and Symbols Source Book. And then I also had a lot of people who were teaching me various things similar to, let's just say, some secrets and some hidden and forbidden things that I learned from various teachers. I've been through mystery school several times, about 4 times. One time, I will say that it was a virtual event. That was when I got an opportunity to meet. Well, I read the book, Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda. He was displaying these different people within the book that he had been exposed to, them having various super sensitive talents, super sensitivities, super meaning above and beyond what the average person was capable of doing. And I likened myself to every person in that book. I've done something similar to what they've done in that book. And so I considered the episode of the dream that I had, and I said that in another episode, but I had a dream about a experience where I was going through as what I felt was an initiate, and being raised and physically elevated to new levels and rewarded at the end of that, where I came back with the reward in my hand as a tangible evidence of actually going somewhere and coming back. Now, I did that again. Well, previously, when I was a child, I actually tested, well, if I keep going these places and coming back, how can I do, this is a 5-year-old's mind. What can I do to verify and validate to myself? I was being scientific at that time. What can I do to prove to myself? And I had taken, mom didn't know, but I had a pack of ballies. and I was supposed to, I was going to get my hair done. She always did such a beautiful job with my hair, and she bought this big, beautiful pack of barrettes. Well, I decided to take it with me to the other side, and if I left it there and came back without it, that was proof to me that I had gone somewhere, left it, and came back without it. And I did. So, and that was the beginning of a series of things that were, in my scientific mind, I was doing tests and things. I was able to do things like, at that point, it triggered me to start looking at what else can I do? What else am I capable of? I was already somewhat hearing through, walls, hearing through, like almost like I could turn up the volume of, those spy cones where you can direct it and then you can hear, do, 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 do. $6 million man hearing, bionic woman hearing at 5 and 6 years old. But see, what I was also doing was playing with what my sight was as well, because I was starting to see apparitions. I was starting to see dead people, or people that had gone beyond, or that were no longer attached to bodies. So the next thing that I started doing, that I recall, and this is me, as a child, I'm riding in the car on the passenger side. I'm looking out the window, and I started getting glimpses of being able to look around the pole. So I started to exercise my eyesight so that I could actually look through the pole, or look and don't see the pole at all, like the pole becomes invisible. Now, I don't know if it happened to anybody else was seeing the pole being invisible, but I was being able to see through the pole, around the pole, beyond the pole. And a lot of different things that I think that helped as well, because I mean, as a child, I was watching things like I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, My Favorite Martian. I mean, I did see things like Superman and Batman, but they weren't. I wasn't really into those, because the Bewitched was a show with real people on it. I really didn't look at the cartoon part of it. So, my perception and my paradigm started opening, my mind started opening to the possibilities, the potentials of, there were certain places I would go in DC. I'm from DC. I would go and I would sense certain things. I'd get breezes of cold energy. Again, as I said, I might see an apparition. I might go somewhere and start doing some lucid dreaming, where I'd start seeing some other things manifest around me. I started forecasting and seeing the future of things. I was tested by the state of Maryland. I guess this was in my late 30s. I was tested, and it was seen that I was 87% accurate with my uh, my my sight, extra super sensitive sight. What they would do is they'd write something down on a piece of paper, and they put it on the person's forehead, and then I'd be able to read it. And they put it face down so that I wasn't able to see what was on the piece of paper, but I was able to read that piece of paper. So I interpreted from that other person's mind, or I was able to actually. I think that's what I think it was, is that I was interpreting from the other person's mind. But it may have been some other way of me interpreting. Perhaps I was tapping into the person that was writing it, or tapping into an extra sensitive side of it. I don't always have the full explanation of what happens or why it happens, but I do know I am able to interpret things in unseen ways, things that are unseen energies. Just the same way some of the scientific devices that we use, some of the detecting devices that we use, or we saw in Ghostbusters, right? Or we now see, in some of the ghost shows that we have now, lots of on lots of the different programs. So, folks are a lot more open to the things that are unseen now. I mean, I know in churches, it was not necessarily, it was frowned upon that you would believe in soothsayers. It was frowned upon that you would believe in the psychics and anyone that was able to tune into the frequencies of the unseen. And that's what I do feel. We each have our own IP address per se, just the same way this computer or our cameras or our phones or other devices have. I have friends that were in the Y2K period telling us that there were two-way pixels on a lot of the devices that we were capturing images from or to, whether it's TVs or monitors or computer screens or phone screens and so on. And in that same way, our eyes are the same sort of, we're able to interpret in, and then we're also able to send certain signals, but we're able to see the pictures, the images. The spirit has given us signs, symbols, symptoms of things that we're supposed to interpret or that we should interpret and apply. The same way, I am, as I said, there's a book I look at, signs, symbols, and the Signs and Symbols Source book. Those are things that it tells you about things that you'll see on um, uh, everything from various companies, brands that they're including certain symbolisms. Various buildings have certain things on it. The thing that I listened to on the last full moon, this was about a week ago, less than a week ago, um, talked about the symbols of gargoyles being on the outside of Catholic churches. So you see, there's a lot of things that's in our religion that have been, sort of the backroom stuff, the stuff that they don't show you on the outside, the stuff that they actually apply to their rituals. As I mentioned, the drinking of the blood, that's something that's a little taboo if you were to say you were actually drinking somebody's blood. Now, it just so happens that we symbolize it with some other things, but it still mocks, it still stands in the place of, fills the gap for that energy if we interpret it as being the value of that energy. And speaking of values, everything that we speak, everything that we read, everything that is spoken or vocalized from our vocal box, our vocal cords, that energy is very tangible and can be manipulated. I don't mean to say manipulated. That energy is just like they say word spelling, just like they say, the witch is writing a spell, or you're prescribing things, or you're scribing things, or you're, you know, there are many words that we use that if you look at the origin of the word, the etymology of the word, where it came from, what language it was from, if we look at the value of each letter, the frequency of each letter, the things that we say, this speech that we portray and uh, as it permeates the air, has a particular like thoughts or things, words or things. Like the tongue is a double-edged sword. It's as though if we are using our energies for good or bad, but as we use our energies with a certain amount of intent, it can be portrayed correctly, but it may also be, like the word you say, this week I will do, or you could say, oh, he's as weak as a lamb, So the word sounds the same. And I mean, it just for the letter W, which also looks like a three, which also looks like a E, um, which is also W or two W's or two V's. I mean, um, we, our languages has some hidden values that we do not equate when we put our numerology is important in ways that we haven't yet been able to make it a mainstream, knowledgeable way. There are people that turn to these things that may not allow others to know that that's what they're doing. Presidents listen to astrologers often. They have charts coursed for them. I mean, at the age of 25, I was doing that. I mean, I had these books that I was reading as a child, love signs, sun signs, star signs. I believe the last book that Linda Goodman did was, oh gosh, I can't think of it. But in any case, and there was lots of stuff in the library at my house that was esoteric, that was metaphysical, that was, borderline early. I mean, I studied the early stuff like Dostoevsky and Sartre, John Paul Sartre. And these are things I studied before high school, and into high school. And so once I got into college, like I said, I've been to these mystery schools, but I've also been to, academic uh, universities and so on, doing I don't know, 6 or 7 different universities that I was able to study a variety of things. So I'm just saying this, my mind was opened as a young child. And the more my mind has been opened, the more I exercise these things and I learn the science of self and I apply that to the things that I want to manifest. You know, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so we thought outside of the box all the time. There was no need for us to be boxed in because we were going to make a way out of no way. There was a will, there was a way, and we made it happen. As a family, we worked together with each other's businesses. We helped each other grow and expand to new levels. And then there were, of course, ones that did and didn't, that went on to be entrepreneurs but did not work with family members. But that was what they learned. We learned to think outside the box. We may have had a day job and then a couple of side things, side gigs, and then we made one of our side gigs our main gig, which was making us our own boss, which means that you will be responsible for your own livelihood, for your own um, upkeep and caretaking. And so, in those ways that I was exposed to that, the science of self was easy. And the more I got into music, the more I got into arts, the more I saw that these outside of the box thinkers, these super sensitive artists in my family, the more I recognized that we didn't think the way the world thought for the most part. And I even had some people in my family that have been diagnosed with a variety of things. And I've seen some healings in firsthand in person. I have seen um, bones healed within, in some cases seconds, in some cases a couple of 15 minutes, in some cases a couple of days. This is where I'm saying we've seen x-rays and we've seen diagnostic tests that they no longer had the blood disorder, or they no longer had the disease, or there was no longer cracked ribs or broken necks or broken bones and that kind of thing. I've seen those kinds of instant healings. But I've been able to open my mind to those things. I've also been able to heal myself firsthand, help others to heal themselves firsthand. Been in groups of people who were healers to heal groups of people. But I also have seen the cloak drop, where you were able to see what was behind there. I've also been able to walk through walls. That was as a child, as an adult. As an adult, it was a Harry Potter moment because I didn't know Harry Potter back when I was a child, right? But it was before Harry Potter came out. I had some Matrix moments before Matrix came out. As a matter of fact, I had some calls come to me where, and this is what I think about, Superman. Like Superman goes to his phone booth and he changes and converts. That might have been a Matrix moment for all practical purposes, just because of the phone piece of it. But I had episodes and times when a phone call would come in and I would actually be projected to another place. My physical was here, but my awareness was somewhere else. And I had someone to walk into the room on me, and I told this person prior to that, because I had a secretary, and I would tell the people that worked for me, hey, don't let these calls come through. Don't let this. So this person would disguise themselves as this person, that person. At that point, I was in music, so he disguised himself as Patti LaBelle's, the person that was representing Patti LaBelle, or somebody that was representing Luther Vandross, or something crazy that the people in my office would believe, and then they pass that person on to me. Um, Patti LaBelle's public, whatever that person's name was, whatever their role was, they were calling to say, so I don't know. For a second, I would be taken aback. And after a while, I got aware, I was aware that these were, I don't want to call them crank calls, and I don't want to say that this was a stalker, but I mean, in my life, and I'm going to talk about this real quick, and I'm not going to go into it deep, but I've had 17 stalkers, but I've also been engaged 14 times, so I'm going to not talk about that much anymore. But that's just to say, that's kind of the way that I got the Mother Love, the name which is given to me. It wasn't a name that I gave myself. It was something that others around me observed of me. And I guess over time I've adapted to it and I've lived up to it as much as I can and learned more and more about love. I live a life of love. So I just want to mention that in relation to Halloween, Halloween is during the month of Mental Health Awareness Month. Those two going together to me is like a good match, because they say during the month of October, that's when the dead or the undead or uninhabited or spirits that are not in bodies roam the earth. And then we take on avatars at the end of the month. And then the day after that, All Souls Day. And the day after that is Election Day. Now, what about that? So, Election Day comes, and we have just gotten out of our avatar position. And now we are seeing that there are rampant bodies without spirits. So, they're going to be inhabiting as much as they can these possessing, I guess you could say, these humans, and then we go vote. Hmm. Interesting position that we're in at this point. It seems as though this season of holy, or what do I call it, holy day season, so season of holy days, seems like it's all lined up, and it cosmologically makes a lot of sense. Like right now, Mercury has recently gone back direct, so a lot of the communications are going to be getting a lot clearer. Things that were fuzzy before, the focus is coming into um, synchronizing a better sight for us. So the way that I'm looking at things is that, this is a time when minds are more open, when time people are more vulnerable, and as we go into the season of hibernation, where we're going to be more inside, where the sun has started to fall, where we're looking towards our winter solstice, as the days get shorter, as the nights get colder, as the winter approaches us, as the day that the earth, I'm sorry, that the sun stands still. I think last month I said something about the moon standing still. It's not the moon, it's the sun. And that's the symbolism, again, as the church is using, as the sun stands still for those 3 days. It can be measured, the maritime devices that they use to measure the degree to which the sun is, it is at a standstill and can be measured at that same degree for those 3 days. And so then it begins to move on into its rising position, and where it's moving on into our summer solstice. Those are the two solstices, the summer and the winter. So I would like to be able to say that, this is a very vulnerable time for people. Guard your mind, guard your heart, guard your energy, protect yourself. You can do a variety of things to protect yourself. You can, just wonder powers activate. You can tell yourself, and you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe what your senses are picking up. As I said, like for instance, right now I've got a cold, like on the right side of my body, I have a coldness that's over here. So I can tell that there is something else here with me that's visiting. And that visitor is making itself, its presence known. And, there may be some things that it tells me that I should be portraying to you, that I can share with you some nuggets, some tips, some hints, or not. It just may be here for me, for after this, it just may be observing me, but I am super sensitive to that I am able to pick up on things and not let it go, and look at the red flags and pick up on the hints, tips, symbols, and symbolism that is around us daily, that is in our language, that is in our alphabet, that is on our buildings, things like keystones, things like, we see images or symbols of the moon all the time, of the sun all the time, of a variety of, like numbers. I spoke to the numerology is important, because our words have a particular numeric value. It has a particular frequency that it resonates to. We've got sacred math, we've got sacred geometry, and as I mentioned, I've studied certain things that I think would be considered secret, but I would also replace that word secret and say sacred, because there are certain things that are just sacred information that it takes for you to have a certain scientific view or point of view for you to understand it, for you to recognize it, for you to pick it up and be able to manipulate it through your mind, process it through your CPU, through your we were the first computers. We are the computer is emulating us, things that we can do. So is the camera is emulating things that we would do in our memory. We would remember and recall certain things vividly. Some people have photographic memory, and we can enhance those things. Our brain power, our brain energy. We use so little of it on a regular basis, but the more we can expand our mind and think outside the box, the more we're able to interpret and be able to um, learn more about what's going on around us. And so, One Love and Wellness, Love plus Art equals Wellness, is bringing you Happy Heart Hour. This was the third episode, and this is the third season. One Love and Wellness, I would like for you to be able to hear the music again. I don't know. Let me see. I think what's going to happen is if I turn it on, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. And so let's see if we can make the music uh, available. This is by Lonnie Beats, one of my family members. We're very musical. Uh-oh, is it coming on here? No, it's not. Okay. And I just wanted to say thank you for joining me. I hope you join us at the end of the month. Come on back. So you'll see down below, you can click for info or you can click for your tickets for haunted tales and mystical truths. I hope that you'll be there with us. We do ask for a donation, but if you would join us, it would be wonderful. Again, One Love and Wellness. See you there. Join us again for the fourth episode as we'll move into the last episode of Heart Happy Hour, honoring Mental Health Month. One Love and Wellness. See you again soon.